Another little prepping sort of survivally sort of tool, which I think is very underrated, is the Rossi or the Taurus Circuit Judge carbine. In the States, you guys would be able to have and a lot of you would be familiar with the pistol versions of those. I really wish that they made a Raging Judge Magnum carbine version myself. That could have been the ultimate survival firearm in my opinion. So we'll touch on, I'll do a separate video on my thoughts on the Raging Judge Magnum version, but I'll keep this one about the Circuit Judge. And the reason why I got it initially was in the areas where I was hunting pigs with my dog and my mate with his shotgun and his dog. We were in very some of the conditions are we'd walk in the swamps and the long grass around riverbanks and swamps, etc., where the ranges could be very, very extremely close range. Virtually at our feet, we would have to get the pigs out of their beds. They'd be in the tunnels of the grass and the lignum and that. And they were quite experienced pigs. They'd been hunted with dogs a lot, and they knew no matter what, they did not come out of their tunnels at all. So our dogs would basically be trying to get them out of their tunnels. The younger ones tended to run. The medium sort of size ones that had a little bit of experience with dogs will sort of eventually run. It's the really big boars, 80 kilos and above, that are old enough and wise enough, they will not come out at all. So we would need to poke sticks in there to try and get them out, throw logs and things like that, or sometimes even fire a shot in there to get them to come flying out. So we're literally shooting pigs at our feet, from anywhere from at our feet to about 5 to 10 yards. And that's where you need stopping power. Okay, so I like 45 cal. A nice wide blunt nosed hard cast 45 cal projectile for me is my choice. High velocity rifle rounds are a little bit unnecessary, a little bit dangerous, because we've got dogs in the vicinity. We've got sometimes our mates on the other side of the clump of grass or lignum tunnel that we're chasing the pigs in, and in the heat of battle, you got to be careful of where that shot goes. So and then also with a high powered, high velocity centerfire rifle at those really close ranges, if you have a scope on it, they're no good at those sort of ranges. And also the bullet performance is extremely erratic when you have extremely high muzzle velocity and impact velocity at those ranges. A bullet that works perfectly at 100 yards to 200 yards tends to blow up and doesn't work effectively. And we've done tests, use it versus the 454 Casull carbine versus the 308, and at those closer ranges, the 454 just stops stuff in its tracks. It's actually a stopping cartridge, where the 308 isn't. 308 hits hard, yes, perfect shot. Yeah, it would be a stopping cartridge, but it's it would stop a tough pig in full flight, but it's hard in those really fast shooting environments when you have no idea when they're coming screaming out. It's too hard to put perfect shot placement on them. So a shot in the back or a gut shot pig, he ain't going to stop. And at those ranges, he can break our legs, hit the dogs, or whatever. So, or run off into another clump of grass, and and it might be extremely hard to get him out, and he's going to die slowly. So that's why I find the hard cast, wide nose, round nose, flat points, or I haven't used Keith style hard cast, but I'm sure they would work fine too. They work great for me. They just punch a very reliable straight line 45 cal hole straight through it. So getting back to the circuit judge. Circuit judge, I thought that I could use the buckshot 3 pellet, 5 pellet, triple O buck, so that's 9mm 36 cal. Buckshot at very close ranges. I have a revolver, so I can select, I can have 2 buckshot rounds, 345 Colts. Okay, so when you're coming into the very, very thick, close range sort of stuff, you can switch over to buckshots and you got bang, bang, 2 very fast, no bolts or anything to manipulate, just as quickly as you can pull the trigger, bang, bang, you got 2 buckshots there. And then as the pigs are fleeing and the range is increasing, then you get onto your 345 Colt rounds. Vice versa, if now you've walked through the swampy areas and the range, and you're into the lightly sort of timbered country and the range is extended out to, you know, maybe 50 to 100 meters, 50 to 100 yards, that's when you can use your 45 Colt rifle sights, and as far as you can hit them, the 45 Colt just punches a hole straight through them. So that's why I like it. You can also throw some bird shot, so number 6s, number 6s and number 5s, and from all my testing, the number 6s work quite well, because as we all know, that the rifling really like spreads that shot around really severely. So I call the 18.5 inch barrel circuit judge, I call it a 20-yard shotgun accuracy. It's got hunting accuracy up to about 60 yards, I've found. I'm sure it can be hand loaded, but it's actually a very tricky firearm to reload for, because 45 long Colt body diameter is greater than that of the 410 gauge shotgun, but to handle the 3-inch Magnum versions of this, they have a very long cylinder, so that gives you a very big long cylinder jump for the projectile. So all this length of the cylinder, the bullet's just wobbling down there, and then it runs into a revolver has a forcing cone which sort of helps guide the projectile sort of into the bore of the rifling. Well, unfortunately with that is you can actually fit a whole 45 Colt round inside the forcing cone, so that's way oversized as well. And then because the 45 Colt case is fatter than this, they just give you extra tolerances to make sure everything works, and what it does is it drops the pressure right down. So you usually get a little bit of bulging in some of your cases. You get a lot of soot and a lot of blowback, a lot of blow by, so the case isn't working as a gasket efficiently, so it's not sealing it. And then because the case can swell so much inside of that chamber, and as the projectile comes out and all that gas starts escaping around the projectile, the pressure drops right off. So still getting, 1200 feet a second out of the 45 Colt, but out of some of those loads they should be sort of a little bit better than that. So and accuracy is sort of all over the shop. So there's a lot of things that I'm going to sort of plan on doing, but it's actually quite frustrating if you're not an experienced guy and you don't know how to load and you're trying to get really good groups. It's not a good rifle and it's not a good shotgun. It's a very in-between thing. But what else it does is it's an extremely safe firearm. So it's a double action. So like all double actions, you've got a half cock, and it's got like a transfer bar, so that there's no, even if you have a full cylinder of 5 cartridges in there, even if you drop that onto the hammer doesn't actually make contact with the primer itself, so it's safe. somewhere in between that hammer coming back all the way to full cock, that's when the transfer bar moves out of the road, and then the firing pin is able to hit the primer. So it's a very safe firearm. It's very easy to use. You can manipulate between shotgun rounds and 45 Colt. It's very, very easy to operate. So for a beginner, it's as easy. Once you show somebody how to use it, you almost can't stuff it up. And it's very small, very lightweight and compact. And it doesn't, these 45 Colt and 410 gauge, at their standard sort of pressures, they don't kick really hard, and they're not excessively loud. So in the past, and wherever we go camping, and there's been family friends and, you know, guests or other farmers, just the property owners want to come around while we're having a bit of a shot, and we give them that. Everyone really loves the Circuit Judge. So it's now my missus' favourite firearm. It's her gun now. So she actually loves the 410 side of it. It's just the perfect noise, perfect amount of recoil, and it does the job. Now, if you wanted to put this into a, you're in a place around the world where you can use a firearm for self-defense, say, this would be the perfect thing for a woman or a child or something like that to back you up. Dad or the man of the house or the most experienced person in the house or in the scenario is point man, point woman with the firearm of their choosing. But then to back somebody up who's not a real gunhead and doesn't have a whole heap of experience, I believe a revolver is actually a very, very user-friendly beginner action to use, and especially in a rifle. In a handgun, you can accidentally point it in directions that you don't intend on the muzzle facing, where the rifle actually just makes it that little bit more, you know, safer and harder to get into an accidental shooting position. So I think that's another really good reason why the Circuit Judge is, you know, a really good sort of self-defense, survivally sort of, and close range hunting tool. And there's no kidding about it. The 45 long Colt, that's got stopping power. Whether that's just a standard cowboy from a 6-shooter, 800-ish feet a second or 700, whatever it is, 250 grain lead bullet, that's got enough penetration and enough initial mass. A 45 cal doesn't even need to expand to leave a lot of damage. So it's going to drive in deep, hit the boiler room, hit bones, breaks bones. You know, it's always going to give you good penetration no matter what. It's not high pressure, it's not excessively loud, and it's just reliable and just pokes a nice big hole and does the job. 410 gauge, when you got a 5-shot revolver, depending on the cartridge, this holds 3 000 buck, this one holds 5. So, you know, if you've got in a home defense sort of situation where your ranges are very short and you won't actually be lining up the sights, so to speak, you do a cylinder dump, depending on which round you got, you know, you've got 15 to 25 to 30, 36 cal or 9mm projectiles coming slamming down as quickly as you can pull that trigger. That's a lot of 9mm projectiles coming your way, all at around 90 grains thereabouts, you know, so there's a lot of firepower there. So that's my thoughts on the Circuit Judge. There's plenty of more things, but I won't go into too much more detail. I'll do another video about a Magnum version of the same thing and why I think it could be potentially the ultimate. Okay, thanks.